Fantastic. Great. Well, T.S., it's great to have you with us. Also following on what Sasha said, I mentioned this morning, Monzo Bank is also 10 years old, so just like Innovate Finance. I think you launched actually the same month as we had our first IFGS back in 2015. In February. But I also mentioned that you earlier this year reached your 9 million retail customer mark and that you have topped the list from the CMA, the official league table, of banks most likely to be recommended by their customers for families and friends. And that is surpassing institutions that have been around for dozens of years. So my first question to you is really, as a leader, what has been the secret to your and Monzo's success? And is there anything that's keeping you up at night?
Well, first off, thank you for having me here, Janine, in this beautiful historic building. And I love to see this event going from strength to strength over the last few years. What's been the secret of our success? And I say all of that with, by the way, if you're in this gig, you don't listen to words like success without having fingers and toes crossed somewhere, because this is not for the faint of heart and we're on a journey. But I think core to our success would be these two things which come together. The first is this idea of never letting what is core to Monzo get diluted. So core to us is our DNA of building around our customer and really being mission focused. So never letting that get diluted is the first piece. And then the second piece is really putting our arms around the whole equation, the whole thing of what you need to achieve to be a fintech company at scale, which is tech and product and business model and P&L and resilience and controls and regulation, all of that, right? Because you can start out and you can succeed for a period of time by focusing on parts of this equation, but really solving the hard problems across that value chain is what I think drives long-term success. So I think that preserving the best bits of who we are and solving the whole problem probably encapsulate it. What keeps me up at night? Gosh, I think it's this idea that we're looking at an opportunity which is enormous. Our mission statement is making money work for everyone, which means truly solving problems for customers at scale and serving millions and tens of millions and eventually hundreds of millions of customers at scale. So that's the size of this opportunity. And digital banking in any of its forms around the world is in its infancy. Right? If you look at the percentage of revenues of the total financial services industry that are with the fintech players, it's tiny. We're at the infancy of the transformation of this industry. So against that huge opportunity, the thing that keeps me up at night, but is also the thing that makes me jump out of bed in the morning, is this idea of not settling, right? Remaining as ambitious as the opportunity demands.
And we've heard that a lot today about sort of what is the next generation, what does the next 10 years look like, and it will be driven by industry, as we've said quite often. I mean, really interestingly, your latest funding round, it comes in the context of funding drying up, valuations declining across the sector. So I'm curious to hear from you what you think set Monzo apart and made you so attractive as a firm, as a company, to drive that investment.
Yeah, super grateful for all of our investors, who are incredibly supportive. In terms of the feedback from the investors and what they saw in Monzo, it's a couple of things, right? If I paraphrase what they've said. The first is that they see us as an outlier because we're delivering across three axes that are orthogonal, that any one or two out of these three things would make for a great company, but we're delivering across all three, which is, number one, scale. So as you said, over 9 million retail customers in the UK, over 400,000 small businesses that bank with Monzo, and revenues that have been, you'll hear more about actual revenues when we close the books and publish it, but big scale from a customer and revenue perspective. But then growth at that scale. So when you're small, it's possible to have high growth percentages, but at high scale to also have growth it makes it much harder, but we have high growth as well. And then the third piece, Janine, which is profitability, right? Because in the tech industry, there have been lots of models where you can have scale and growth, but then effectively you're burning a whole bunch of cash and marketing to achieve that. But we've also been profitable for a while now. So it's that sense of being an outlier from a snapshot perspective. But I think what investors obviously are investing in is never for a snapshot, but about where the business will go and the opportunity ahead of us. And the fact that this has been built off of a product set and a brand which is extraordinary, a customer loyalty which you referenced, which is extraordinary, and the size of our ambition and where this business is going in the future is really what got investors excited.
So let's dig into where we're going in the future, because I think when you look at the past decade, what you and what Monzo have done is nothing short of inspirational, and it has a massive impact on consumers across the UK. For the next 10 years, where do we need to be? And firstly, I want to dive into the role of government in terms of supporting you and the broader industry. You are a member of our Unicorn Council. You fed into some of the policy asks that we've released today. We're also in an election year, and we have to think about what we need from this next government in order to support us. So what would you say are the biggest priorities that are facing the sector, and what would your message be to the next government?
Yeah, what's exciting to me is that, whichever party comes in power, whichever government it is, I think they've demonstrated that they have commitment to the fintech industry, which is really exciting to me. Because if you think about the evolution of the UK has long been one of the leading centers for financial services, and it's natural and fitting that that evolves into it being the leading center for fintech as well. So the relevance of fintech to the UK is something that that whichever party it is seems to own. And if I just speak about Monzo in terms of numbers for a second, right, we employ well north of 3,000 people in the UK. And by the way, the vast majority of that, north of 80% of our employees, are distributed across the UK. So this is not just a London employment thing, but across the UK, right? Customers, I've talked about the numbers, 9 million retail, 400,000 small businesses, growing at a very, very rapid clip as well. And then you look at the investors and the amount of capital that we're attracting into the UK, right? The hundreds of millions of pounds of fresh capital coming into the UK. So it just underscores the importance of fintech as a sector and its importance in the growth story for the UK. So the recognition of that is huge. What would I want the regulators and policymakers to remain focused on over the next decade to help us all continue to grow this sector? I think it's, if I think about it in two buckets. One is regulation, and the second is infrastructure. So if I think about regulation, so much has already been done around, the ability to attract talent and so on. But from my perspective, it is this continued ask, which is what we talk with the regulators and policymakers about as well, the continued ask to make sure we remain competitive. Competitive as a destination, so the UK versus other countries, competitive inside of the context of the UK, and making sure that regulation is proportionate in a way that continues to incent that and create better outcomes for customers. So that's regulation. The second is infrastructure. Infrastructure is, Sarah Breeden just spoke about this as well, about the payment infrastructures, and that's a really good example. Faster payments and open banking are great infrastructure, great rails that were set up in this country, which fosters so much amazing innovation on the back of that. So this combination of regulation and infrastructure coming together can create so much opportunity and create so many better outcomes for the UK customers and for the UK economy. And my hope is that as we look ahead, that remains a focus. I mean, if you look at just the amount of fraud and financial crime that the industry is grappling with anywhere in the world, and it's a good test case for saying, look, what additional infrastructure do we need that helps us weed that out?
And what about for Monzo? What's your vision? What are your priorities for the next year? And then what's your vision for the next decade?
Yeah, so we're incredibly ambitious about the future. And we're incredibly ambitious while being really disciplined in how we go after it as well. From a product perspective, I still feel like, we're just halfway there. So our product roadmap is so exciting in terms of the things coming up and just the stuff that, we've already talked about. Insurance, pensions, this, are just other aspects of a customer's wallet, a customer's financial needs that we're in the process of building out, right? With the goal of building the single place for all of our customers' needs. So from a product perspective, so much more to come, in the next few months, but also, certainly if I take a longer view on this. If I think geographically, I do think that in the UK, even with the numbers I've just talked about, we're just scratching the surface of the opportunity. There is so much runway for us to continue to grow in the UK, serve tens of millions of more customers, hundreds of thousands of small businesses with more of their money needs being met in a responsible way, that I think, there's plenty to be done. And then, our ambitions don't stop at the borders of the UK. We've been, public about the fact that our ambition is much bigger, building out strategies that help us bring Monzo to customers in the US and eventually Europe is part of the roadmap. So 10 years is a long time, and I'm excited about all of the different things that we can get done.
Can I, just diving into the UK point, because we've talked a lot today about the UK and compared to some of the global hubs, and where are we? What is it about the UK that you think makes it such a special place to grow a business and to innovate?
You know, so there's many things that have come together for the UK, right? A progressive regulator early on, starting the process of helping license banks like us, right? Not enough regulators around the world have done that, right? Licensing us as to be a fully, regulated digital bank. So that sows the seeds. London and the UK have always been attractive places to get talent from everywhere to come and build. There were, the universities in the UK, the infrastructure, the society, there's so many things which come together to make this a potent combination of possibility here that, and the legacy of being a financial services hub makes it for an easy transition as the world changes from financial services to fintech for this to be the place.
Yeah. And how optimistic are you about fintech's next decade? So we have a time capsule that we're starting today, and we will be burying. What will we open up in that time capsule in 10 years' time? What do you think the ecosystem and the sector will look like?
So I'm incredibly optimistic about that. If I look at the existing model in the industry, the incumbent players, I think this is a race over the next 10 years between two categories of players. The incumbents, and whether they will get and embrace and deliver on the promise of technology, or challengers like us, and whether we will get banking at scale, right? And between incumbents getting technology and challengers getting banking, it's clear to see which camp we sit in, right? Because this race between these two categories of players has a prize at the end of it, which is to transform customers' relationship with money. And so if I forward this clock to your point, and we come back in a time capsule into this historic, beautiful venue, I would love to see that the industry has changed. For too long, the relationship that customers have with their money has been one where money controls them. And by the way, this is independent of levels of affluence. At whatever level of affluence, money creates anxiety for people. Most people feel controlled by their money and their financial needs than the other way around. So if in 10 years, we come back and we look at that relationship having changed, that now we put customers in control of their money. We've given customers the tools to make sense of their money, make good choices, and remove the barriers to financial progress. That'll be an outstanding outcome. And I'd love for Monzo to lead that charge and for the whole industry to be there.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to end our conversation. And you've done an amazing job leading the charge thus far, so I'm sure you will be leading the charge going ahead in the next decade. T.S., thank you so much for taking the time to join us and give your perspective in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.